Hi, my name is Alejandra Cortez. I am from the University of New England, and today I'm going to present a case study. So let's start. So Jane is a 14-year-old female. She was referred by her primary care physician for consulting for weight management. Jane has been in the overweight BMI category, but at her recent annual well child visit, she has progressed into the obese BMI category for her age. Her weight has been increasing by 10 to 15 pounds each year for the past 6 years. For her history, her medical history, she only has some seasonal allergies. She fractured her ulna at the age 4. She doesn't have any surgical history. Family history, mother obesity and hyperlipidemia, and for father obesity and type 2 diabetes. Um, this is particularly important to know just because there have been some studies that have shown that kids that have obese parents have more possibilities to be obese themselves. So we want to take in account all of that we can so that we can assess Jane. And then for her demographics, her language is English. Then her father is 45 years old, mother 41, sister age 8, and her brother is 4 years old. Then for her physical exam, everything seems normal. The only thing that they show is that her abdomen looks obese, no tender to palpitation. Um, then her heart sounds normal, her eyes and ears are clear, she seems oriented and alert. Um, and then for her vital signs, her temperature is 36.8 and her blood pressure is 125 over 82. Her pulse is 80 BPM. So for her vital signs, I paying particularly attention to her blood pressure just because it's a little bit higher than the normal range. I the only there can be different factors that can affect the blood pressure. For example, if she was nervous, there are some studies suggesting that that can affect her blood pressure. Um, but then there are some other risk factors like obesity that can increase blood pressure in teens. So that is something that I would pay attention. And then for her height, we know that she's 62 inches. Her weight is 152 pounds. So for her assessment plan, we know that she's a 14-year-old female who presented to her well child visit. She looks normal except for her weight status. She has been increasing by 10 to 15 pounds over the past 6 years. She is above 95% LBMI for her age. So her family agreed to an intervention, and some nutrition assessment was recommended, and some consulting for patient and parents. So for the nutrition assessment, so the first thing that comes to mind is that we're gonna start just by knowing the family. We want to know like the preferences, the cultural background. We want to know if they're facing some barriers, the level of education of the parents. We also want to know the food preference, and some other cultural factors that might be affecting or that might affect their preferences. Whenever it comes to barriers, we want to know like if they have access to nutritious foods. Um, so all of these has to come into the nutrition assessment. I would say that that is definitely one of the most important things to do, just so that we have so we can create a successful plan. So after that, we can start measuring her. So we take her height, which is 62 inches, and then her weight, which is 152.9 pounds, and we have her BMI, which is 28. That's categorized obese. So in this point, we want to discuss the meaning of being obese with the parents. We want to discuss like um, we want to explain them or to give them a little bit of education of like what are the consequences of their kids, the obesity of her kid. Um, what are the implications? We know that kids that are obese in their teenager years um, tend to be obese in their adult years. We do know that all the implications that have like diabetes, heart disease, hyperlipidemias, but not just that, it also affects their mental state. It also affects their social relationships. So all of that, the parents need to understand in order for them to compromise, to follow the plan, in order for them to start like thinking about the future of their kids as well, and not only Jane, but the other two kids. So particularly important as well is for the parents to understand that they have to commit to a plan as a family. There are some studies suggesting that um, patients have better successful rates if the family or is well involved, or if they have like a very good support system. So for particularly for Jane, I would discuss that that is absolutely important, that she cannot be in her house trying to eat healthy while the parents and the sister and brother are eating some fast food. So instead they have to be eating healthy food with them. I mean, if not healthy food, like trying to do some changes in their habits, trying to do some exercise as a family, because that is going to be important for Jane, not only for her physical but for her mental state. Then we have her BMI, which is in 96 percentile. Like we know that she's obese, and we can see it in her chart. And then the same stature for age, we can see that she is very short for her age. She's in the 30th percentile. We also can see that in her weight for her age, she is in the 95 percentile or above, which is, as we said, we can categorize her as obese. Then we had her labs. We have the LDL, the triglycerides, and the HDL. So all of the ranges are a little bit off. So we know that the LDLD is commonly called as bad cholesterol, and it contributes to the formation of plaque built up in the arteries. And then, so lower LDL levels protect against heart disease. This is like, I would be very worried to see that her LDL levels are a little bit high just because of that risk factor of heart disease. Then her HDL level is lower than it should be, and this is known as the good cholesterol, and it's the type of fat in the blood that helps to remove the bad cholesterol from the blood, preventing the fatty buildup and the formation of the plaque. Higher HDL levels generally protect against heart disease. And then we have the triglycerides, which are a little bit over the normal range. So these are another class of fats found in the bloodstream, and they make up the bulk of the child's fat tissue. Some studies have shown a link between triglycerides and heart disease, but that data in adults is less clear. Many children and adolescents with high triglyceride levels also have other risk factors such as high LDL levels and low HDL levels, or carry excess weight. So we do know that she is off in all of these, which is um, I, I think it's expected just because she is obese. We were able to see her 24-hour recall for her past 3 days. And so some of the food, she eats a lot of fast food and some other foods that are like highly in fats. So that is something that we need to pay particularly attention in that. And so part of our assessment will be to help her to do those changes in her diet. Then we had her fasting glucose was over the range. And so, according to a JAMA study, kids with higher BMIs and higher glucose levels are most likely to develop diabetes. Um, so, we know that type 2 diabetes, is completely preventable. So these are the things that we need to start working with Jane, trying to change those eating habits, trying to educate her on what to eat, how to do more healthier choices or more smart choices whenever it comes to eating. And then this is something that, I mean, it's important. It is like one of the most important things is always to remember the patients that physical activity is important. It's one of the factors that will give them that success that they need. And physical activity doesn't mean like they have to go to run a marathon or like do some CrossFit classes or anything like that. Just physical activity can be just playing outside with the parents, just going to a walk, for a walk with the dog. So all of these things, the parents need to understand as well. It's not only the kids. In all of these things, I think that schools should be involved too. I think that, or not just think, there had been some studies where all the community is involved, including like kids, if they go to churches, parents, family, if they are all involved um, in the kids, with the kids' education or with the kids' lifestyle, then there's more possibility to success. So so I'm gonna start with the food diary. Like I said, we did saw a little bit of we did saw the 24-hour recall for Jane, and so here are the results. So for her first day, she ate over 5,000 calories. Her fat levels were like high to the roof. She ate over her carbs and over her protein intake and over her energy intake. So according to the chronometer evaluation, Jane's energy intake is way above what a person for her age, sex, weight, and height should be consuming. All of her micronutrients are above of the recommended, and most of the micronutrients are above of recommendation. Her high caloric diet is contributing to her obesity, along with other factors like physical activity levels and race. Research suggests that obesity increases with age, especially when obesity has carried from infancy to adulthood. And this is why it's extremely important to start working in the lifestyle change habits and educating Jane and her family. Then we have the other 2 days, the same, over 200 calories. Her fat, carbs, protein, and energy is like way above the same. Her energy is kilocalories are way above the normal or recommended for her age. So all of these need to be assessed. We have to come with a plan. And so this is when it comes whenever our recommendations comes. So just before the recommendations, like I said, it is super important to educate the family. Um, so to give them resources of like healthy recipes depending of the lifestyle of the family, it is important to give them recipes that are healthy but at the same time that are short, that they don't have to spend like tons of time in the kitchen to be able to make or to cook a healthy meal, right? um, Some other resources that people can benefit from, I would say, that are grocery shop list, some meal prepping. It is important for families to learn how to meal prep, how to organize their grocery list. Um, like some other things that I think are important is like, depending on the socioeconomical status of the person or the levels of poverty, then you can actually educate about like different options they have for their foods. For example, if they um, fresh fruits are a little bit more expensive, then there are other options like canned fruits or frozen fruits, or the same with the vegetables, or like maybe they have options for cheaper protein source like beans. So all of these things parents need to know, and we have to give that education to the parents. So our primary goal is to change Jane's behaviors and lifestyle, resulting in healthier eating and physical activity on a regular basis. Part of the lifestyle change behaviors should aid in Jane getting to a healthy weight. So let's go with the recommendations. Like I said before, engage Jane and her parents in behavior change counseling to address lifestyle changes that family needs to do in order to be able to help her. Like I said before, it is important that the entire family uh, get committed to Jane's plan. It is important that, like I said, if brother and sister, they cannot give a different food to the brother and sister and give like a completely different food to Jane, because that would not be, it wouldn't be fair for Jane, and it wouldn't be sustainable either, because at the end she would end up eating whatever they are eating. Another thing that is important is like helping them to create an environment where there are not a lot of like snacks that are not gonna give any nutrient, or any good source of nutrient to Jane and her kids. Then Jane needs to be educated on what to eat and how she can utilize my plate as a tool to explain the basics of nutrition. So it is important, like education is like the most important thing. Educating on my plate, just because it's just I feel like my plate is just an easier way for people to keep track of what they are eating. It's just a simple way. They don't have to think much. It's just like half plate, my fruits and vegetables, and then the other half of the plate, the grains and proteins, and that is just like they can visualize in their mind, and in the long run it's just like something that will they hopefully will do it like just without thinking, right? Like they will just create their plate. Then they have then give them some nutrition education and cooking classes for the entire family, which I think is necessary. Nutrition education, just like I said, educating them about my plate, educating them about like different sources of protein, how to prepare different meals. Meals doesn't necessarily have to be like boring. Um, Educating them about like using um, different ingredients, spices, just um, trying to consume different foods. And it is important to establish a plan to start incorporating more activity in her daily routine. Like I said, it is Jane doesn't have to go to a gym or like do a marathon, like just little steps, like just walking outside, just gardening, water the plants, helping the mom to clean the house. Like those little things are like activities that Jane can incorporate to her life, and that um, just with that she will increase a little bit more of her physical activity. So here we have my plate, and this is just an example. So I went to my plate and I calculated her calories for her age, and then we have that. it's 1600 calories per day for her age. And then this is just perfect, and this is just like a resource that we can give to parents and even to kids. And then like it's just super simple. You can see here that 1.5 cup of fruits, um, and then 2 cups of vegetables, 5 ounces of grains, 5 ounces of protein, and 3 cups of dairy. And then it says here she needs to be she needs physical activity. um, and then this is very, very important because I feel like teenagers tend to drink their calories. And so we part of like the 24-hour recall from Jane was that she drank Coke like pretty much every day. So those little things, like just explaining them and have visuals is important. Like once you are in the assessment of the parents, like having the visuals of uh like this is like super famous, like just having the bottle of Coke and then showing her like the amount of sugar that a Coke has. Like showing those visuals to teenagers and even to parents is very, very, very helpful. So now, part of the plan is just to, like I said, have some visuals of the vegetables. So, for example, here we can explain them that this looks like a 1 cup of lettuce. One serve of vegetables would be a medium tomato, or half cup of broccolis, and then half cup of cooked or canned legumes. And then we have here one serve of fruit, looks like 1 apple, 2 kiwis, 1 orange, 1 banana. The same here, we have that one serve of carbs, looks like 1 slice of bread, half cup of rice, and a cup of 1/4 of a cup of muesli. So showing her those, like I feel like once we are with them, and even like showing them like the real food and how does it look, just like doing that education will help them to make like better choices. Then we have like one serve of dairy, which looks like a cup of milk, one small tube of yogurt, 2 slices of cheese, a half cup of cottage cheese, and then we have that 1 cup of plant-based milk will be as a serve of dairy. And then the same, one serve of protein looks like 2 eggs, like a piece of cooked salmon, 100 grams, then 30 grams of nuts. That I Sometimes we have those visuals where you can see the palm of the hand showing that that is just one serving of protein, that a handful of nuts. So just showing like a handful of nuts will be a serve of protein. So all of these like things that we can do to help um, are important, right? Because they do need to know, like we cannot start doing changes if we do not know how it looks. If we have no clue of like what is a serve of protein, right? Like how can we utilize our plate if we don't know what is a serving of protein? And then I have a sample of a meal plan. This is like I so the first day is just like how a plan would look, just like a normal plan. So this is just one. I'm showing just one example of how it can look one day. Just incorporating a little bit of my plate. Like you can see here, it has the 1 cup of yogurt for breakfast, homemade granola, and strawberries. There we incorporate like grains, dairy, and fruit. Then we have a snack, apple and milk, which is milk and fruit. So it was a little bit challenge to for me whenever I was creating the menu, just because I was a little bit under calcium. And so um, one of the things that I noticed was that By increasing dairy, I was increasing as well a little bit of fat, even though I was using utilizing like um, fat-free yogurt or 1% milk, and that is something that whenever we're educating the parents, those are little things that they need to know. For example, like doing those little changes, right? Like instead of like whole milk, we need to incorporate 1% milk. If the instead of yogurt, whole yogurt, we need to do fat-free yogurts. And just little things like that that can make a difference in the long run, but also will provide those nutrients that we need, like calcium, right? Or, for example, that cup of juice. I am not a fan of juice, but I do know that juice come with like different supplementations. So it could be vitamin D, or it could be calcium or vitamin A. So, I mean, different foods have different supplements in it, so or additives or supplements. And so for my next example, I had the same. I had the breakfast, the lunch, the dinner, and the snack. The only thing, and this is one of the examples that I like the most, just because they have the exchange list, and I feel like this is like perfect, especially for teenagers. So um, we have here that she has 2 eggs, but she can substitute those eggs for 4 eggs of whites, or for 2 ounces of ham, and then the same with all of the other fruit, right? Like she can have one small fruit. Um, or like she has the whole wheat pita chips, but she can exchange it for pretzels. Or for example, here instead of chicken breast, she can exchange it for baked fish, turkey, or lean beef. So that is like, I always prefer this type of exchange list whenever there is like a plan, just because it gives more like room to changes. The same in this plan. We have like the exchange list, and we have the list of the foods. Always keeping in mind the 600 calories of my plate, and always keeping in mind um, my plate, right? Like the half of the plate, fruits and vegetables, and the other two halves, the grains and the protein. And so that is it for me. Thank you so much for your attention.